This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
This is Monte Mohr with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMD Financial and My Mortgage Team. And welcome back. It's Sunday evening.
We're back. Happy Sunday evening, everyone.
Yes.
Carey Ann, good to see you as always.
So good to see you.
So glad you're feeling better.
I am. I got my spunk back.
All right.
Got it going on.
Boy, we all limped when you limped, you know? The world kind of revolves around you, doesn't it?
I feel like it was a three-week downtime there, but feeling better for sure.
Good. And your little one is not bringing home any more germs, right?
No. Well, yes, that's probably going to continue. But now I've got myself on, the emergency, the immune this, everything. I'm set.
You're ready for it.
I'm ready for
action.
I'm ready for it, for sure.
Well, it's always a pleasure to be here on Sunday evening with all our listeners, and we're so thankful for everyone sending in questions. Be sure to send those questions to questions@talkmusiccity.com or hashtag TalkMusicCity.
Yes, this show is also a podcast, so you can listen at your leisure. We're on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Music, and others. You can also watch us on YouTube or our favorite Facebook. Simply search The Talk of Music City.
What a great resource. Thank you, Jim McCarthy, by the way.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you, brother. You're doing a great job.
We do. We love Jim.
Thank you.
We love Jim. Absolutely. So we have a guest with us today. We're going to have our topic today is going to be everything home inspections. Everything home inspections. You know, in the real estate side of things, Carey Ann, you don't see a lot of this part of the stress and strain. But I tell our clients that, first of all, we sell the home, but equally as challenging sometimes is getting that home through the home inspection process.
But I don't maybe see it except for the fact that maybe deals fall apart and I'm notified. But I was that gal who have sold a few houses purchased one. So I have lots to talk about and really start to get in the brain of our guest here on everything home inspection, all things home inspection. So are you ready for us, guest?
So let's say...
Who is our guest?
All right. Our guest is Aaron Schroer of Tennessee Home Inspectors. Hey, Aaron. Welcome.
Good to be here. Thank
Welcome.
you. Appreciate you both.
And actually, love Aaron. He is one of the best in town. Aaron and we got to meet, a couple years back now it's been. And he's been a huge supporter, and his whole office been a huge supporter of the Real Estate Blaze that we have monthly.
That's how I got to know him.
Yeah, with all of the real estate community here locally. And I just hear so many raving reviews about him and his organization and his crew over there at Tennessee Home Inspection. So congrats.
Thank you
for that.
What you all do at the Blaze is such a special event and just a great service to the real estate community. So I loved supporting it.
Awesome.
Well, I was surprised that Aaron took me up on the opportunity to come here, Carey Ann, because he knows that he saw me carrying this or pushing this wheelbarrow full of rocks because I was planning on stoning him while he was here. We could make kind of a live sacrifice, for all the real estate community. I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding. But sometimes some of the real estate folks, we're challenged by that because, where is the happy balance? Is one thing I'd like to talk about today, Aaron, is what is the happy balance of giving a great inspection at the same time not holding a man-made product up to a level that it can't exist. It doesn't exist. And I've seen home inspectors do exactly that, of just trying to, I don't know if they just enjoy being a deal breaker or what, or and I know part of it is we as an industry, in the real estate industry, have not always managed the expectations of the consumer, So I've seen so many times new real estate agents just take the home inspection directly from the inspector, hand it off to the consumer, and not know how to manage that expectation. Not saying, well, let's stay focused on the things that matter most, like structure, like safety, like mechanical, the things that ought to be, working properly, obviously. But unless that's a brand new home, it's hard to expect that home to be in brand new condition. And at the same time, I've learned that a good home inspector needs to also, in our litigious society, stay out of court. So that must make a great dynamic for you to live in.
Yeah, I would think that would be hard for sure.
It's a tightrope.
I can imagine. It's got to be a tightrope.
It is. And dreaded deal killer. Nobody wants that in their life, especially agents. So it's Once an agent has a home inspector that they enjoy working with, maybe they work with Tennessee home inspectors, maybe they work with somebody different. But once they have that sort of person that they know they can trust and has that good bedside manner, presents the information, tactfully to their client to educate them without striking fear in their hearts, it's difficult to break that bond and to try somebody different, because that unknown is a scary thing.
Well, and it's understood that, as a home inspector, I'm amazed sometimes at the responsibility or the pressure that's on your plate, and I try to warn my clients. I've said so many times over the years, the day of closing, if that dishwasher dies, it is not the inspector's fault. Okay, and it was working just fine a few weeks ago when he inspected it. And don't blame him if something. In other words, don't blame the inspector if something is happening after closing. But that happens so often.
Yes, and too many people kind of gloss over and don't really take heed of how important that a final walkthrough can be.
It's a big deal. So we've got a few topics here on this, or not topics, but a few ideas on this topic. So if somebody comes up to you after an inspection and says, "Okay, how would you rate this house on a 1 to 10 scale?" Do you give them any sort of answer, or do you keep it objective as possible? What do you do?
I try to keep that really objective. I mean, there's no way to put it on a scale, and it's an intimidating question, is because I don't know what they value versus what I value,
right?
And besides, how do you quantify that?
Right.
So, a lot of people ask, and I just kind of divert the question and say, hey, let's bring this back into the hard facts. Kind of go over those systems again and break them down piece by piece.
So what I've seen over the years is, I've seen some massive changes. How long have you been doing this? First of all, we got to believe the messenger, so we can believe the message.
I started in 2010 with another inspector. I apprenticed with a guy named Bill for 4 or 5 years.
So approximately how many homes have you inspected?
Oh gosh, myself, thousands. My company, more thousands. Before I started my company, and thousands with Bill.
When did you start your company?
2005.
Okay.
So you've done this. I was impressed the other day when you did one for our client there in Brentwood, and I was really, even though that was a cursory look, I was amazed how detailed it was.
Thank you.
So back in the day, you probably remember this, and I can't do it here because of these headphones, but as long as you could carry a notebook and put a pencil behind your ear and walk at the same time, you could call yourself a home inspector.
Sure. Yeah.
That's real, Carey Ann. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. There was a test on, can you carry a pencil behind your ear? No, I'm just kidding on that part.
There was no regulation.
But there was no regulation.
Oh.
And anybody and everybody could call themselves a home inspector.
Right. The dishwasher's working. It's not.
Yeah, pretty much. That was
the
it.
Heat seems warm in here. It seems cool in here. Yeah.
And it's scary to think people just jump into the industry with no mentorship. That's not a requirement in our state. So my mentor was a double-digit licensee, so he was an early adopter of that program. But there's a lot of people who jump in and they take a 90-hour class,
right? And
they pass a national exam and they buy some insurance and they're in business. But having a safety net, we have a team, so we have really stringent training inside the company and a lot of shadowing and there's always checks and balances. So every morning I'm up at 4:00 reading the reports from yesterday's inspections before they go out to our clients.
Wow.
And so
that's dedication.
We have people to bounce questions off of inside the company.
What do you think differentiates you guys more than as much as any other home inspector out there, more so? Why would we want to use you? I know you're a nice guy. I know Carey Ann loves you, but what else?
Well, I really believe that everybody needs an advocate. Everybody needs that and deserves it. I believe inspections should be affordable, and I believe that an unbiased set of eyes is indispensable. So, that unbiased set of eyes, that goes inside our team too. So I didn't see the house, but I'm reading the report. I can question the things that I see because I'm reading it for the first time. I'm looking at it for the first time, and I may call the inspector out on that and say, hey, what about this? It's not clear. Let's change this up a little bit. Tell me a little more about it.
Wow.
And that's
impressive.
kind of unique.
That's impressive.
And so you're looking from roof to basement?
Yes. everything in between. It's
Everything in between?
There's a state standards of practice of what an inspection is and what it isn't. There's a lot of misconceptions.
So, what I find that's interesting, which we can talk more about, is, being someone that is who has sold a home or two, and has got into that situation where, I'm crossing my fingers. It's a 16-year aged home that that we purchased and remodeled it and felt like it was a really great home. And we had one inspector due because we had one buyer, and there was 4 things that they referenced on it, and that deal fell apart, which we heard that story a couple episodes ago and still working through that drama. But the second buyer comes along and they get another inspection, and it's 3 pages, of so-called repairs that are needed. And what's interesting, and I'd love to talk about it a little bit more here in the next segment, but it sounds so bigger and so more dramatic than it really is. Like some of the terms y'all use, is like, or maybe that just one specific inspector, to the average Joe, I was like, oh my gosh, there's so much wrong with the house. And really it was just cover the cap here or, add another thing there type of thing. So that's interesting. And why one inspector only sees 4 things and another sees 25, if you are following state rules or whatever, is there something specific, that we have to go through?
Sometimes I think inspectors think they get extra points or something if they find more problems, it feels like.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd be happy to comment on both of those things.
All right. Well, let's do that when we come back. Let's take a short break. But thank you so much for tuning in tonight. This is the talk of Music City Real Estate. We've got Aaron Schroer with Tennessee Home Inspectors with us. We'll be right back. You've been listening to the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Are you someone who is looking to gain wealth through real estate? My name is Carey Ann and I'm with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. Whether you're looking to purchase your first home, a second home, or even an investment property, my team and I, we specialize in making the process of homeownership smooth as possible. With our vast variety of mortgage programs, our competitive interest rates, and our local support center, we have the ability to serve so many deserving families and help find just the right mortgage program to fit within your short and long-term financial goals. Mortgage loans is what we know, and approving them is what we do. We'd be honored to help you begin the process today. Check us out at yourtnlendingsolution.com. That's yourtnlendingsolution.com. Or give us a call, always a friendly voice, 615-456-4456. That's 456-4456. We look forward to helping you and beginning your mortgage application today.
Super Talk 99.7 WT and the talk of Music City Real Estate,
where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group, Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team. And welcome back. We've got Aaron Schroer in the office, or not. What are we? Is this my office today? I guess it is. It feels like it is my office. Yeah. In the studio this evening, and we're talking all things home inspection. So we were kind of talking about why did I get one home inspector that referenced 4 items wrong with my home that was just redone, and then the next one with the next buyer gave a list of 25. So you were going to comment on that. What are your thoughts?
Well, what is that? What is your perspective of that? That's got to be, you're going to have to stay diplomatic here, right?
Yes, I have to stay diplomatic.
One cost to cure was $150, right? Like, right. It was very minimal. And then the other one
$1 million.
It was like $11,000 or something crazy, So what are your thoughts there, my friend?
Approaches. We mentioned earlier there is a state standard, so there's certain things we have to comment on.
What are some of those items?
So they kind of define what parts of the electrical system have to be inspected. They define which appliances have to be inspected.
Okay.
It lets you know that the purpose of a home inspection is to take a snapshot. It's how's the house today on the day of the inspection, and what's major going on with the house. So it's really not supposed to be about all the little things, but people's expectations quickly make it that.
Okay.
So an inspector can really stick to those guidelines.
It's not supposed to be about all the little things.
It's really not. That's all discretionary.
It's so interesting when you are handed, as a real estate broker, when I get handed from another on one of my listings, 3 pages of all this minutia. Mm-hmm. it immediately, and this is one part of the message I hope the younger agents get out there, is that when you do that, you immediately start whittling away at that relationship between the two sides immediately. Because the first thing a seller does when they see that long list of minutia is, well, they don't want to buy the house, let's go sell it to somebody else. You know,
Right.
and again, it's part of the managing the expectations. I think it's so critical that we are always trying to convey to our agents at Realty One Group Music City, because that part of the transaction is, there's a lot of emotion that can happen there, and there's a lot of fear because most people aren't familiar with construction, let alone the results, the scary results of these colored pictures of maybe a minor problem, but oh my gosh.
Yes. So, a reason that home inspectors put a lot of the little stuff in there is because, honestly, it's easier to put it in the report than it is to take the phone calls on why wasn't this in the report. I'll give you a prime example because I have to call the client when I'm done here. She called our office about some blown windows. You know how the windows get foggy between the panels of glass?
Right.
It's not even our job to identify those. We're not required to.
Wow.
So, and that's done for several reasons. One is that if an inspector was required to, the standards of practice were written to protect the client and to protect the inspection company. If we were required to identify every single blown seal, it would be Pandora's box. So they say we can,
Because
test
some are more difficult to determine. Is that why?
Yes, they could be really little, or it can be misdiagnosed for several reasons, and it doesn't affect, rain's not coming in the house.
Right.
It's a cosmetic thing.
It really truly is a cosmetic thing, isn't it? I mean, does it affect the
Well, let's talk about windows. Let's talk about windows.
We have a professional window person.
Let's talk about windows, because when I bought my home, I paid the higher end. I got the referral from the agent and paid the max preferred inspection. I thought I was getting the whole kit and caboodle, right? Everything.
Right.
So there was an assumption probably on my side, where I probably assumed wrong, that the entire home was going to be looked at by the inspector that I hired, right? So buy the home, and now 6 months later or whatever, I'm walking upstairs and there's a beautiful window on the north side of the home, and it's in the stairwell, and I'm noticing there's like this gap growing, kind of in between the window and the seal, and I'm realizing that the window is bowing, like it is actually causing, now this gap here, right? And it's causing concern. We'll come to find out.
See outside in the gap, or
so it is. So basically, what's happening is the sun. We'll come to find out. The builder painted the windows a dark color, which I guess is not warrantable for the windows. Now the sun is baking the windows. Now the windows are changing their shape.
Wow.
Right, which is now causing these holes. So I knew that this home was 3 years old when we bought the home. So this clearly, if the windows were lifted up or down, you would have noticed that they don't close correctly, right? So, and then there's beautiful curtains, covering the window.
Covering the gaps around the window.
You know what I'm saying? And it's gorgeous. So for me as the buyer, I assume those were all reviewed, right? We'll kind of find out they're not. And just kind of what you're referencing is, that could be cosmetic, or now, guess what? That's a $50,000 fix on non-warrantable windows, because I didn't know that the builder painted the windows color wrong, right? And so there's nothing I can do. I can't go back to you as the inspector, supposedly, but I, as the buyer, assumed that somebody reviewed my whole house, because I'm not a builder. Right. I'm your average Joe that knows nothing about windows to, the electrical to anything. I'm just hoping that it's, working. Are the lights on or off?
Let's put this on Aaron's shoulders.
So let's talk
here.
about that.
Right. That's a really freakish thing to happen, isn't it?
Would
the paint colors
the same problem be experienced right now had you done that inspection?
So we operate what the state standards say is that the inspector operates a representative number of doors, windows, outlets, because you can't get to all of them. Those the beautiful things in the house, people's knickknacks are on windowsills. We can't touch those. Oh. So it's important as you're staging the house as a listing agent that you kind of instruct your seller to make everything accessible. And if it's if it's a window that's accessible, yes, we would definitely pick up on that. The paint color, that's really odd. That's an odd thing.
Well, you wouldn't know because you know that the sun's baking that dark, beautiful painted.
Solar gain is intense sometimes.
And that window is basically melting. I mean, it's warping as, you know, and it's all the windows on the north side of the home, you know. So
I have a hard time believing those couldn't be inspected, though. I mean, honestly, I have a hard time believing that.
Yeah.
But you're saying basically it's not a requirement for you guys to completely look.
Not every single one.
What is the representative number?
There's no...
Just...
Yeah.
Okay, so one or all of them could be representative? I don't understand that.
What we shoot for is what we can access. Okay. You know, if it's behind a headboard.
Because the other day I saw you doing an inspection, and I know that outlets are fall in the same category, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I get it on outlets. I get that.
It's behind the TV.
But I saw you do every one of them that was available to do, so you would do the windows the same way.
Yeah, yeah. You know, as an ethical inspector.
You're not counting, I did 3, so I don't need to do any more. You're just getting the ones that can.
Now, if I'm in a house that is ready for a full rehab, you know, I'll do 2 or 3 and realize that, hey, this whole electrical system's garbage, and I can we can generalize at that point on the system as a whole. Mm-hmm. And the same with windows, you know, by the time you've inspected the first 6 windows, this one doesn't lock, that one doesn't close or open, this one's missing counterbalance weights, this one's broken. Eventually you just say, hey, you need to fix all the windows.
Right.
Sure.
Gotcha. It's important stuff here. Mm-hmm. I hope you don't mind being assaulted here in this.
I get assaulted every day. Are you serious?
That's a harsh word.
That's my role.
We're just speaking sternly to him about.
Well, I got so upset a few weeks ago after an inspector. It wasn't this inspector's results of inspection, but I got so disappointed because this is the 4th time. You know, like what you just talked about, Carey Ann. Mm-hmm. This house sold and fell apart 4 times. The 4th inspector came up with a list that nobody of the other 3 inspectors never mentioned anything about. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden, this house sounds like it's about ready to cave in. And because of the inspection results, which were never a problem before, the buyers walked away. And so, for the first time in my career, I became the inspector's enemy. And I went online and I created a review that shared my feelings with. And I hate that, but.
Monty sharing his feelings. Too funny. Well, on that topic, let's take a brief moment and a brief break and come back and talk more about maybe mold and different things that you would see in a home inspection that can maybe cause a deal to fall apart. This is the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Hi, my name is Monte Mohr. I'm the broker owner of Realty One Group Music City. I've been an active real estate broker for over 35 years now, personally selling thousands of homes. That's why I recently opened Tennessee's first Realty One Group office. As a real estate professional, would you like having it all? Cutting-edge technology, full support, world-class training, same-day commission deposits, all for free? How about strong collaborative culture, national brand recognition, new high exposure, easy access office, and a non-competing broker committed to your success 7 days a week? Now let's top that off with all experienced agents receiving 100% of their commission from day one. I know, where's the catch, right? There is no catch. Call us today and schedule a confidential meeting and learn why Realty One Group is the fastest growing real estate franchise in the nation. Call 636-8244. That's 615-636-8244. Or go to topagentsuccess.com. That's topagentsuccess.com. Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here, Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Talking all things home inspections.
Yes.
And we have a guest with us, Mr. Aaron Schroer with Tennessee Home Inspectors. Before we get any further down the road, Aaron, can you share with the listeners how to get a hold of you if they're thinking about
Sure.
doing an
best
inspection?
way is our website at getaninspector.com. Pretty simple, easy to remember.
Getaninspector.com.
Getaninspector.com.
Okay, how do you spell inspector? Is that with an E-R or O-R?
O-R.
Okay. Just want to make sure, because I've tried both ways. I can spell it both ways. Hey, let me share with you a quick story. Maybe you have heard this kind of thing happen before. So, several years ago, the inspector that I use, this is why I use listeners, this is why I use a really, really good inspector, okay? One who does an outstanding job and one who is able to communicate the facts to the buyer. Mm-hmm. So several years ago, I used an inspector. I was using this particular inspector because we were friends and all this kind of thing. Nice guy. He's still out there inspecting, as a matter of fact. So I didn't know. What I didn't know was that. Well, let me just share how it happened. So about 2 months after closing, house in Murfreesboro, I get a request from my buyer of the home after they moved in that to come look at the house and see what they have found. So what happened was the refrigerator on the second level gave up the ghost, and he pulled the carpet back from the front of the house. Aaron, this is the second level. Pulled the carpet back. This was a drive at home, synthetic stucco. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm talking about. And anyway, there was a tack strip eaten up alongside the outside wall. And he thought, well, how could that happen? This is second story. How could a tack strip get eaten up by termites?
Oh, eaten up.
Yeah, eaten up by. It turned out to be termites had gotten up to that second level and chewed out the front of this house. Okay. So what it turned out to be is that at the peak of that home, there was a little decorative window there that had never been sealed around, and water had run down that enough that it washed out the termite treatment stuff at the base of the property, and the termites went up and ate the whole front of the house out. I got sued for that, and the inspector got sued for that, but he never showed up to the hearing because he'd let his E&O insurance lapse. So the reason I share this is so that the listeners can make sure that they use a good, solid, reputable inspector, because that experience, I sat through a 9-hour deposition.
Wow.
I wanted to cry when I came out of that. I didn't put the termites there. I wasn't but they sued me. Because I have E&O insurance, just to be honest with you in that situation. But and the fact that inspector didn't even show up and he's still out there, that's why I want to make sure that we direct our listeners to great inspectors like yourself, Aaron. Anyhow.
So that's good information, but are you looking just kind of peeling all that back. So is the inspector looking for the termites? Because you and I would then have a termite inspection, right? Mm-hmm. Which we normally do. But for lending purposes, you can, or you're not required on a conventional loan, right? Mm-hmm. Just on the FHA. Or are you saying that they should have caught the gap at the top of the peak of the home?
Okay, so
where are we thinking?
Where the inspector dropped the ball was, good question, Carey Ann. Thank you for clarification. So the house was inspected by a termite company, okay, and it's a pest control company. Didn't find any termites. And so looking up in the attic, because I went up in the attic after the fact, you could see the color of the wood underneath that window. This is an unfinished attic.
Okay.
The color of the wood underneath that, directly underneath that window, was a different color, a darker color than the same wood on the sides, which would indicate it's been getting wet over the years.
I see.
Okay. So he should have seen that, but didn't, and I had to pay the price for it.
Yeah, I would think that would be what you were referencing earlier. I guess, how much are they catching? What's required and what's not, right?
And those signs of water intrusion are super important. That's spelled out.
It is.
We have to comment on any signs of water intrusion at the house, signs of condensation on building materials. Those are pretty critical.
There's few things that can destroy a home quicker than water getting in the wrong spot.
Yeah.
Yes, it's devastating, and a lot of times that stuff goes on, and people don't realize because they're not in their attics, they're not in their crawl spaces on a regular basis, and it can happen pretty quick.
Well, we have a beautiful home, Aubrey's little playroom, and it is covered in shiplap. So, I'm thinking, you watch those fun TV shows Sunday mornings. I'm like, this is style. This is cool. And then all of a sudden it's raining in Aubrey's playroom. There's no way that it's raining when this home has been 4 years old. I'm thinking that beautiful shiplap on the ceiling and that design clearly had to have come later in the process to cover up something.
Oh, wow.
Right? Because there's just no miraculously way that you're, going to start raining in there. And come to find out, we had major issues. I mean, this house is clearly the money pit of a home that we bought.
I'm so sorry. It's such a beautiful
but
home.
I mean, you don't think about that. Like, you look at it, go, oh, this is so beautiful. Who's looking behind the curtain? Like, who's looking behind that beautiful, why is there wood on the ceiling? Why is there something different, on it? Or what's that cool now you can put copper, cover-ups and stuff. Like you're saying, who didn't know that there could have been a leak up there, right? And there could have been stains, and that's why they then added, beautiful coverings. So you see that a lot. Yeah.
Not in today's world when you're supposed to share those kind of things as a seller or take a chance to get in trouble.
And let's talk about that too. So you're supposed to, as a seller, reference all concerns in the home, right? Is that Tennessee law?
Anything that could adversely affect the value of the property. And certainly any water intrusion.
These disclosures are important. And people do hide and they cover stuff up. And when houses are rehab, there's a lot of that goes on.
Yeah. Back in the day, you could literally have a leak in the ceiling and just spray paint it white and say, I don't know anything. Back in the day when it was caveat emptor, buyer beware. But it's not like that anymore. It's the now seller, you better beware or you can get sued. How long ago was that, Carey Ann? 3 years?
I know.
Too long?
Couple of years when we had to fix all of it. It was the entire flashing on the back of the house had to be all redone too.
Oh.
Yeah, things you never know. So let's talk about mold, because from a lending standpoint, that's a no-no. You quickly see anything dark, speckled, concern, right? You're going to make sure we're all aware.
Well, and here's a funny fact that home inspectors are not required to positively identify fungus, mold, or mildew. It's written in the standards like that. Now we are required, like I said earlier, to report on any signs of moisture intrusion, condensation on building materials, elevated humidities. These are the things that cause the mold, the underlying issues. But a good inspector, anytime they see something, they're going to make note of it, but they're probably not going to spell it out as mold because you can't call it mold if you don't send it to a laboratory. So there's liability in calling it the wrong thing. So we may say something like microbial growth or a substance that resembles, or these little code words to kind of put it in the report and still document it.
Wow.
So let's talk about a house that you might have a nightmare, every other week about, or a fun memory that makes you laugh when you go in there. Is there like one story that you remember, or that one house that you remember was pages, or a funny incidents?
Let's talk about the most uncomfortable inspection I've ever done.
Yeah, so there you go.
I was doing a portfolio of maybe 30 or 40 houses for a big commercial client, like one of these real estate investment trusts, Wall Street money, right? And we were going all through Madison and Antioch with this big portfolio, and these people are not real happy that people are coming. They've been in these homes for 10, 15 years renting from the same landlord.
Tenants, you mean?
The tenants, yeah. So the tenants are there. They're somewhat hostile. They're not excited. There's a lot of drama in those situations because Nashville's been growing so quickly, and they know that they're going to come up. Their rent's probably way undervalued. They're probably going to get a $500 a month spike. So at one house, this gentleman, he had a chrome-plated pistol on his hip the whole time, big, intimidating guy. And I don't know if it's his aunt or family member or friend or roommate or what, but she recorded the entire time with her cell phone, and she was just following me around. When I got there, there was, the project manager, the contractor, the HVAC guy, so there was a little bit of
tension in it.
Yeah, well, and there was some distraction, but by the time all those other guys were done doing their little piece of the job, and I had another hour and a half to be at the house, she was just following me and just recording me, so it was awful. Like, she followed me up into the attic, like I'm gonna mess with her Christmas decorations or what, I don't know. But that was,
don't mess with the Christmas decorations, let me tell you there, Aaron.
Right. So
don't be touching my Christmas decorations.
Having the ability to kind of diffuse the situation to make people feel better. If somebody's been renting a house that long, I have connections. I can connect them with somebody like you or somebody that does credit repair. I can have a conversation with her.
Sure.
And maybe get her to a better place in her life and just really at the end of it, maybe we both cry and give each other a hug and those sorts of
They're
experiences.
like, I'm only inspecting your house. Yeah.
Yeah.
Looking to see what's wrong with it. Wow.
I love that attitude, Aaron. I've not heard that kind of level of attitude with most inspectors out there. That's awesome.
I think
You're kind of a missionary out there.
the pistol on the hip would make me nervous too.
Yeah.
Yeah, those weren't tears of compassion, but tears of fear, probably. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I would be a little worried.
But,
this house is perfect and done, and I would walk out.
Then we get some really, some deplorable situations and conditions where the houses are just you can tell before you ever go in it, and there's children living in these places, and those can be pretty rough.
Oh yeah, I can imagine.
Neglected houses and all kinds of weird things too.
Yeah, that's
Wow.
hard. So when you're listing all of the repair work or what you see, are you the one referencing the cost to cure as in the cost that you think it would, be for fixing this
Repairs.
particular repair?
That's a really unique thing to offer a client. We had a major corporate client in the past that we did that for. As a general rule, no, we don't. And in that situation, there were three different people making budgets, and then they would look at all three of those in a boardroom and decide how they're going to move forward with that deal. But as a general rule, no. And I would encourage people to use their inspection window to bring a contractor in or a handyman in or a specialist. Get a real world price, because those, you can have a roofer come and let you know what it would cost to repair and what it would cost to replace the roof. And that's good info moving forward with your deal.
And so you do go on the roof?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Depends on the house.
Okay.
Depends on the inspector. Some of our guys are very agile and have been climbers and other things in the past, and they're great with it. And other guys are, if it's a ranch, they're great. But some of these high-pitched roofs with steep,
I wouldn't want to get up
they're
there.
not. Yeah. I like climbing.
If you're not required to be on there, then I understand it. It again goes back to that assumption. I assume somebody looked at my roof, as the buyer, right?
Yeah,
So
it can be done with binoculars from the ground or a drone. It doesn't, you don't have
that's
to
true.
climb it.
That's true. That's good information. I hope everybody out there listening tonight is getting some really good information about all things inspections. We've got Aaron Schroer with us this evening. You've been listening to the Talk of Music City Real Estate.
Super Talk 99.7 WTN, the talk of Music City Real Estate.
Where we educate and motivate all things real estate.
Monte Mohr here with Realty One Group Music City.
Hey, and Carey Ann with CMG Financial and my mortgage team.
Talking all things home inspections. What a great topic. I think that many realtors out there that are listening can identify with how important of a topic this is, because boy, when you're sitting there as that listing agent and you're not certain about the property and nobody's been under it, especially, for maybe years because grandma and grandpa have lived there for the last 30 years, and you're kind of, biting your nails waiting for that inspection report because it can be scary. But on that topic, Aaron, I wanted to see what your opinion is. Speaking of those folks that have been in that home for a while and haven't had somebody come in there with that second set of eyes with the intention of really examining things. In the past, a pre-inspection, in other words, what that would be called. I've not really been an advocate of investing the money, because it's like, okay, well, the next inspector is going to find something else anyhow. Why bother?
Right. Which you've seen that often. So
yeah, you do, but the big problems are the big problems typically.
Sure.
If they're real. That most inspectors are going to find those. So what are your thoughts on that topic?
My overwhelming realization through this journey has been that really expensive repairs were at one time minor issues that just went undiagnosed and unaddressed for a period of time.
That's a real good point. Really.
Absolutely. So, just a periodic maintenance inspection, I think is fantastic. You should be having your HVAC system serviced twice a year, because a little leak of Freon can be repaired once it runs dry and that compressor burns up. Now it's really expensive. So service your units. Have a roofer come look at your roof and do some really minor repairs every year, every other year. Maybe after a big storm where you notice some shingles on your neighbor's roof that are messed up. Then have yours looked at too. Most roofing companies will do that very inexpensively. To have a home inspector come and give a quick look through the house that maybe takes an hour or two can be done very reasonably. We don't have to create an entire home inspection report by the book. We can just do a maintenance report for you.
So what is that, a few $100s, or how much does it cost on that base? I'm sure it's based on square footage.
Absolutely, as everything and the age of the house.
Sure.
But for between $150 to $250, most houses we can do something really solid.
So you're recommending every, what would you say, 5 years or something like that, or how often do you really think that someone should?
If you're having your HVAC checked and your roof checked on a regular, I'd recommend every 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
For some people, maybe even every year. It just depends.
Depends on the age, I guess, of the home and how well it's been maintained.
And you can't time your accidents. So if something's going to spring a leak under the house and spray water, where your refrigerator line is coming in and it's going to spray water on the subfloor and the floor joist, you can't time that. So
well, let's talk about new construction.
Detection.
I've seen so many times where agents have not insisted on new construction inspection because, well, it's got a 1-year home warranty. What are your thoughts on that topic?
Yeah.
I think it's super important because I've seen a lot of the bad results that happen a year in. Several times, shower drains that were not connected to the drain system, it just dumped in the crawl space. Places where they'll maybe knock a hole for the HVAC ductwork through the foundation wall, that they leave the floor unsupported in that area. I've seen columns missing at stairwells, or there's no contact at a column between that and the major floor girders.
I've seen these same kind of things. I'm glad you feel the same way. I've seen these kind of things.
It settles for a year. You get a year of shower water in the crawl space, the swamp and the cesspool that makes is just it's unbearable later.
A lot of the structural problems that are created by the various vendors. They don't show up for a year or two, but guess who inherits that? If you don't get it corrected while it's under warranty?
And it's way easier to have those repairs made when you and your family are not living in the house. The builder might do it. You may have to put a chokehold on them to make it happen sometimes, but it's going to be a major inconvenience, even if it's a fairly small ordeal.
So I hope everybody listening does if you're going to buy a new home, be sure and invest the extra $300 or $400 and get that home inspected. What are your thoughts, Aaron, about doing an inspection more than the finished product when you're building a home in stages? Are you an advocate of that?
I like a pre-drywall inspection. There's not a lot of people that do it, and it doesn't always work out. Somebody may be buying it a little late in the game, but there's a lot to be looked at before the insulation's in, before the drywall's up.
That'll tell you a lot.
So what about the extra inspections, like maybe a chimney, pool, and do you do the HVAC inspections?
The HVAC is a little more cursory. It's not going to be a technical evaluation. So we don't use gauges. We don't use multimeters. We operate the systems. We look for damage that's visible. We check for heating and cooling in every room of the house, things like that.
You check differential?
We measure differentials to make sure that it's cooling and heating properly. You're not taking the unit apart. You're opening the access panels to look inside of what you can see without, tearing it into it. For chimneys, it's the same way. A proper chimney inspection may involve removing some things. Maybe you're pulling a damper out. We don't do that.
I see.
But we do look at the chimney. You shine a flashlight, look in it, inspect it from the roof, inspect it from the fireplace as well.
So do you recommend the specialist in something like a chimney or like a roof if you have any questions about something?
Sure. So that's kind of what we do. Same thing for structure. Some people will read a client agreement and they'll see all the things that inspectors are not liable for. So we're required to do that, and we're required to tell them certain things that are kind of to disclose some stuff. But what I tell people is, okay, so the difference is we can't do things that take other licenses. So if I see damaged floor joists, if I see rot, I'm going to tell you that, you have some structural issues, but I can't give you an engineering letter. I don't have those stamps and those letters behind our name. So we're going to punt to a higher level, a higher authority when appropriate.
Right. That makes sense.
The chimney in the backyard, it was where you become your brownie and you're doing your making it from scratch there, and come to find out all of the all of the smoke kept coming in the wrong direction because the chimney wasn't tall enough, right? Well, how would I know that? Unless
You're
I
talking
had
about your chimney?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
on the outside. It was drafting wrong because of how the chimney wasn't tall enough. So now it had to be moved into an electric fire, or gas fire.
That's going to be a great house when you're done with it, aren't it?
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be totally redone. But, lessons learned, that's what we're trying to educate people out there. If you have outside chimneys, if you have a beautiful pool, do you know your pool equipment? I'm finding out only lasts about 4 years. Well, didn't know that. Lesson learned on that part.
I had no idea how.
Septic systems.
Yeah, and your HVAC, may be a certain age, but, maybe you've redone it, within that time frame, et cetera. So what about codes? I know we get asked a lot, you're walking down that steep staircase to the basement, and you clearly know that probably is not up to par there. Do you worry about that? Do you care about that? What do you handle with codes?
I like making improvement comments, monitor comments, safety comments when appropriate. In Tennessee, houses are not brought up to codes when a real estate transaction happens. Other states might be different. Here, codes is not coming, and it is very, we are definitely not codes inspectors. It is not a codes compliance inspection, and that's pretty black and white. So we'll say things like, it's not up to modern building standards. We may say something like that to allude to codes because we don't want to get on that slippery slope of now the home buyer thinks that we inspect this house. Is it up to codes? So we look at things different. And being a home inspector, you have to know what were those standards through the different generations. When were different codes adopted in different locales, in different cities and cities within cities. So it can be very confusing. So we tend to kind of inspect to a certain level. And if the builder doesn't like it in that area because they haven't adopted that code, that's okay. We'll just write up that it may be adopted later.
There you go.
And people know that.
Great information, Aaron. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. Again, everybody, you can go to getaninspector.com to find you, correct? Getaninspector.com. I think we've run out of time for this evening. It was great having you on
with us,
man.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. Hey, we'll see you next week, 5 p.m. You've been listening to The Talk of Music City Real Estate.